You are in Democracy Plaza, and more importantly, you're in the cycle. I'm Crystal Ball. That's right. We're working for the weekend to bring you the best election coverage all around.
I'm Essie Cupp, and then there were three. Time's running out in this presidential race, and both campaigns are running around. It's a presidential marathon, and the finish line is the White House.
I'm Torrey. We're taking a cue from the president today. The cycle is bringing it to you from our loins.
I'm Steve Kornacki, taking you to the political twilight zone. I think you're going to want to stick around to find out what that means.
All that plus Politico's Dr. J, Jonathan Allen, Governor Ed Rendell, and Nate Cohn's crunching the numbers. They say go big or go home, while the cycle is going big on this Saturday, November 3rd, 2012. Good special Saturday cycle to you, and we are finally here. The ninth inning of the Politics as Baseball cycle game, and to quote my fellow play-by-play man Keith Jackson, whoa, Nelly. Anyway, the national polls show us at a virtual tie with the president having a slight but persistent lead in some of the key battleground states. He has to close the deal, and the deal right now is in the Midwest. The candidates, their wives, and their running mates are covering 8 battleground states in total today. We start by taking you to home base with our White House correspondent, Mike Vaquera. Mike, the president hits 4 states today. What is his closing argument?
Well, we've got ourselves a barn burner here, don't we, Crystal, in the words of Keith Jackson as well. I'm sitting here home alone. I had to leave Steve Kornacki my blazer so he would have something to wear.
Thank you for that. It's rush delivery.
In the words of Keith Jackson, in the words of David Axelrod, actually, one of the president's senior strategists out of Chicago on the campaign, his closing argument, and this is probably the most memorable quote of the last week, is coming from his loins. We saw the president come in late tonight. He was back out on the road early this morning. He stopped at FEMA one more time, then back on the helicopter, back to Joint Base Andrews, back in Air Force One. He landed in Mentor, Ohio. That's in northern Ohio. In terms of the closing argument, it's just the same, basically the same stump speech, but with that last final frenzy, that last bit of energy now that both of these candidates are giving it with just 3 days to go. Let's go over the president's schedule. Today, as I mentioned, he started in Ohio. They are in Milwaukee at this point waiting for the president. He's airborne, heading in that direction towards Wisconsin, Iowa, and Virginia. He ends up in Virginia and northern Virginia tonight. I'll be out there. He'll be accompanied by the Dave Matthews Band. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm certainly dressed for it. Tomorrow, Sunday, in New Hampshire, Florida, Ohio, back to Ohio and Colorado. Monday, Wisconsin, guess where? Ohio after that. And then Iowa before he finishes up in Chicago, where he will spend Election Eve. Ohio, we should mention NBC News and the Marist organization yesterday put out their poll for Ohio. Ohio has the president up 6, a whopping margin compared to what we've seen in the past. Our poll even has the president up 2 in Florida. So the Obama team certainly optimistic, and down the stretch they come to keep that sports metaphor going.
Love it. All right, Mike Vaquera with some great reporting from his loins there. Thank you so much.
It just doesn't sound right.
As for the challenger, Mitt Romney needs to rally his troops and outgun the president's field operation. NBC's Peter Alexander is on a plane right now with the Romney campaign. He called in this report for us right before takeoff.
Crystal, good day to you. 2 stops down, 3 more to go today as part of this 72-hour final sprint for Mitt Romney. Here in Dubuque, Iowa, there's actually been a unique energy on the campaign plane as we prepare to board for Colorado. Several of the governor's top advisors are traveling with the campaign today. They, of course, have been offering the reporters rosy predictions about what will happen on Tuesday. But in addition to that, there's a sense that they are soaking in these final hours of a campaign that many of them have been working on for the course of the last 5 years. The governor here today, again, offering bipartisan themes, but he has tried to draw attention to the president's comments from yesterday in Ohio, where he said not to boo but encourage voters to vote, saying that vote is the best revenge. Romney today said that he is not asking his supporters to vote for revenge. He said, I'm asking you to vote for love of your country. That was perhaps the biggest applause line of the day today. To give you a sense of where this campaign stands as they look forward, Mike Leavitt, the former governor of Utah, is traveling for one of the first times with the campaign today. He's in charge of what's called the Romney Readiness Pre-Transition Process. as they prepare for a potential administration. In his words to me just a short time ago, it's like building a ship that you hope will set sail. That's the latest from here in Dubuque. Crystal, back to you.
All right, Peter Alexander, thanks for that. In about 30 minutes, we will hear from Paul Ryan, campaigning for Mitt Romney in battleground Virginia, my home state. Must be slightly awkward for him today, given Politico's exclusive story confirming that Ryan wasn't Romney's first choice for VP. It was actually Chris Christie. Let's bring in Politico's senior Washington correspondent, Jonathan Allen. So, Jonathan, what do you make of these reports? Your outlet there, Politico, is saying that Romney was planning on going with Christie and after his trip to Israel changed his mind.
Well, there was, there's a significant intrigue going on now, even as these candidates are rumbling, stumbling, and bumbling around the country here in the last week. If I can borrow your Keith Jackson refrain there.
You can have it, actually. I don't think I'll be doing that again.
Mike Allen and Jim Vandehei for Politico reporting today that Chris Christie had been the number one choice of Mitt Romney at one point. Then he went to London for the Olympics, came back, had gone to some other countries as well, came back and ended up picking Paul Ryan. I think there's a lot of bad blood right now between the Romney campaign and the Chris Christie folks, and we're seeing that spill out here right in the last couple of days.
Let me just inject one note of skepticism here. I'm not plugged into the Romney campaign like the guys at Politico are, and I don't question their reporting. I know a little bit about Christie world, and I'm a little skeptical of the idea that there ever was a moment when Romney was going to pick Christie for this. It seems a little convenient, a little cute that it's coming out at this moment in this context. But, Jonathan, I wanted to ask you about demographics heading into this Tuesday. Seems like there's basically a test that we're gonna find out the answer to in this election, and that is, can Obama win re-election with a historically small share of the white vote, which basically means, will the non-white vote share of the electorate rise to new levels that will allow him to survive with like Latino support and black support? Seems that the Obama people are saying, hey, turnout among blacks and Latinos will be at least as high as it was in 2008, and the Republicans are basically saying, no, it won't. Do you have a sense who's right in that dispute?
Well, I think increasingly what you've seen is a Democratic coalition over the years that has been built on African Americans, Hispanics, women. We see the huge gender gap between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, and some white men. And increasingly, you see a Republican Party that is the majority, large majority of white men, and a gap on the other side. And so that is a test I think we're going to see. One of the questions about all the polls that we've seen is, are the models that they're using correct? Is it going to be a 75% white electorate? Is it going to be 77%, 72%? Is the Hispanic share of the electorate going to be 7%, 10%, 12%? So I think we are going to get those answers to those questions. An interesting aside to that story about Chris Christie today, there was a Romney official quoted anonymously in that story talking about how Ohio is the only state where Mitt Romney's gender gap among men, his advantage among men, is not bigger than his gender deficit among women, which seems to be a concession from that official, at least, that he's losing Ohio, because obviously all of the voters are either men or women.
Excellent analysis there.
That's very Kornakian for you. Either the voters are men or they're women.
Two choices.
There you go. So throughout this campaign, the Democratic brand has been above water and more popular than the GOP brand, which has been consistently underwater and less popular than the Democratic brand the entire time in this whole campaign. Do you and it's not just a party ID issue, right? And it's not just Aiken, it's not just Murdoch. Do you think that the GOP brand is dragging Romney down just enough?
Well, I think a few years ago, Congressman Tom Davis of Virginia had talked about this, basically saying the GOP brand was dog food, or comparing it to dog food. I think it's better than it was then. I do think that I think that Romney's had a lot of things to overcome in terms of positions that he took in the primary when he talked about being severely conservative that aren't necessarily the Republican brand, but perhaps the conservative wing of the Republican Party. It was hard for him to make that pivot to the middle. And, of course, we'll find out on Tuesday if that was an insurmountable obstacle or one that he's found a way to wrangle free of. But I think public officials, generally speaking, right now are held in low esteem. All you have to look at is congressional approval ratings to understand that Americans don't have a lot of faith in their government, whether it's a Republican brand or a Democratic brand right now.
So, J-Dog, the president's been repeating the line, don't boo, vote, at rallies. Recently, he's tacked on another adage, and Mitt Romney has responded. Let's take a listen to that.
At the time, the Republican Congress and a Senate candidate by the name of Mitt Romney. No. Don't boo, vote. Vote. Voting's the best revenge.
Speaking to an audience, he said, voting is the best revenge. He told his supporters, voting for revenge. Vote for revenge? Let me tell you what I'd like to tell you. Vote for love of country.
I mean, aside from giving Mitt Romney a nice opportunity to sound patriotic, what do you think Obama meant by revenge? I mean, Romney's not been president. He hasn't inflicted any policies on anyone. Revenge for merely running against him? Is it revenge for challenging him? What do you think?
I think there's a real question there. Revenge for what? Mitt Romney hasn't been a president of the United States. He was governor of Massachusetts, so maybe if you were talking to a Massachusetts audience, which the president wasn't, there might be something to feel like you have revenge against. I'm not sure what he meant. It seems like an odd way to talk about voting. However, I do think the president has spent the last couple of days trying to fire up his base. I think his message has been much more tailored to that. Even the talk that you're hearing from his aides, David Axelrod, his energy's coming from his loins, Axelrod said, and which may be the crudest thing I've ever heard anybody say about a sitting president. This is base motivation stuff, while Romney seems to trying to be making that end of campaign sail to the middle.
Yeah. Let me just say, I do not have a hard time seeing what Obama meant right there. He was connecting Romney to a Republican Party that, for instance, presented with a jobs bill that economists unanimously agreed would increase growth and cut joblessness over the last year, refused to cooperate, refused to even consider it. A Republican Party that's obstructed just about the entire Obama agenda for the last 4 years.
So
a Republican Party, SC, whose leader in the Senate,
it's a great message
whose leader in the Senate said,
it's a really uplifting, inspiring message to get revenge on people you've never met.
SC. It is a response to a Republican Senate leader who said his first priority was defeating Barack Obama for re-election. His first priority as a leader in the legislative branch was to defeat Barack Obama for re-election.
So get revenge for something that he said
somebody who
4 years ago.
Said and then obstructed.
Great message.
I spent 4 years obstructing
right
your agenda.
along with, rather than
I know what he's saying.
Vote. All right, Dr. J, thanks for hanging with us on a Saturday. And up next...